Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Know nothing. What would you do for a living? Because he's literally getting ready to graduate with a mechanical engineering degree and a minor in biomedical engineering and all this, right? I said, what would you do for a living? He said, I would invest in real estate with you. I'm not joking. And you could have knocked me over with a feather. Really? Are you really? And he goes, Dad, you don't understand how magnetic you are when you talk about real estate investing. He goes, I don't think there's anybody on the planet with a pulse that wouldn't want to work with you in real estate investing.
Wow. That's crazy.
Isn't that nuts?
That is nuts.
They grew up thinking they were not going to be involved in this industry.
Right.
Pretty soon, both of them are going to be involved.
It's so crazy. Like, it's kind of one of those things, the things you run away from is what God is calling you back to.
Isn't that wild?
That's so wild. And sometimes it takes other people to see it. Because I was in that same role. I was like, I just want a regular job. I don't want an entrepreneur. My husband used to always tell me, like, you are a natural entrepreneur. Like, you just know when to just step in, get stuff done, move on, and then you're on to the next thing. Like, you just know how to do it.
Your parents taught you. You grew up watching this happen, right?
Yes.
As a kid, you watch what entrepreneurs go through.
Yes.
And you think, okay, there's a better way.
Yes.
All I want is this. Right. Then you pick up that book and you're like, wait a minute, I'm doing this all wrong. My parents did it right. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Wild. Just absolutely wild. This is so cool. I love this. Okay. So you pick up the book, you decide that you're going to make this change. Tell us about how that happens.
Yeah. So I pick up the book, I'm trying to make this change, and it takes me like 3 years to really make this change. Sure. And during this time, we're saving money and we're listening to podcasts. And it's literally like my husband, when he's off to work, I'm off to work, we're listening to the same podcast. And then late at night, we're discussing the podcast to really just dive into it. Then we start making financial decisions, and then we save $50,000. And we're like, okay, let's go find this property. So we go out, because at that time we didn't know any other way, but call a lender and say, hey, we want to buy an investment property. They're like, oh yeah, you qualify. Let's do it. But I need 25%. Okay, we have that. So then we buy the first rental property that is a duplex for like $129,000 in 2017. And it's an hour away from our house because we were just chasing the money and thinking, oh, this is cheap. We can make it work. And literally the day that we closed on the property, the tenants call us because we inherited horrible tenants, but hey, that's a whole nother story. And they call us and say, well, this is broken, and this is broken. My husband and I both looked at each other like, what the heck do we do now? Like, what do we do? Like, how do we figure this out? Yeah, we're capped.
We're capped,
Like, we're barely cash flowing maybe $400 or $500 on both together for those duplexes. And we were like, let's get a property management, because I'm still working. He's still working. Let's just get a property management. They'll handle the day-to-day. So we get a property management company. They're okay. I'm learning from them, learning what to do and what not to do in that time. And I'm trying to like let them run things and do things. And it got to a point where one of the tenants, she had a job with a pole late at night, and that was her way of making income. But she would never have the money to pay rent on time. So there were many moments that the property management couldn't get a hold of her, that I would drive an hour after work to all the way across town and pick up money that was in a Ziploc bag, and it was a ton of ones. And I would come in the house and tell my kids, do not touch this money. Do not touch this money. And then I would give it to my husband and say, I need you to go to the bank and deposit, because I don't want the bankers thinking this is what I do to make my income. So you do that.
I love this. What a crack up.
And he
I don't want them getting the wrong idea.
Yeah, I don't want them thinking this is how we make our income. So
Right.
you just go, and whatever they think of you, they're gonna be like, oh, well, let me.
They're never going to imagine that you're doing this.
They're
right?
never gonna imagine it was you. No, like I'm like, you go do that. And so we got to the point that, we started saying, okay, well, how are people able to buy multiple properties in 1 year?
Yeah.
If we literally gave all of our savings and it's stuck in that account, it's going to be stuck with that property for almost 5 to 10 years until we can build enough equity to do a cash out refinance.
Right.
So then we're listening to Bigger Pockets and we're like, okay, let's do the BRRRR. We literally rewinded over and over, breaking down the BRRRR at least 30,000 times. I kid you not. We would write it down and then we would do research on that aspect of it.
Now
and
let's do this, because there are going to be, we're in 24 countries now.
Got it.
Okay. So let's stop for just a second. You and I know what BRRRR is.
Yes.
Okay? And it's not being out in the cold. Okay?
No.
So really quickly, just explain for people that are listening that may not be in this business, what's BRRRR?
Yes. So BRRRR is you buy a distressed property,
Right.
you rehab that property to put
Right.
your own sweat equity in it, and then you rent out the property,
Right.
and then you refinance the property,
Right.
because now you have a new value,
Right.
and then you repeat and you do it over and over and over again, and now you have cash flow properties.
Right. So let's talk about that for just a second, because a lot of people that are listening to this have never done this. Okay. So you buy a piece of real estate.
Yes.
You rehabilitate, remodel it, right? You repair it, you remodel it. You turn around and you rent it out. So when you buy it, you repair and remodel it. It now can generate more income.
Yes.
Right. And rental real estate is not every single piece of rental real estate is this way, but a lot of them, the value comes from the income.
Exactly.
So you remodel it and repair it, right? You make it nicer than just about anything else out there.
Yes.
You rent it out for elevated rents.
Yes.
Okay? Then you go out and you refinance it. You're refinancing it because you've now inherently built the value up. Okay.
Yes.
You're paying off your note, you're paying off your purchase money note, right? Plus any remodel debt that you have.
Yes.
Okay. And after you're done with that, generally speaking, you have some money that you're putting back in your pocket, and then you're off doing that again. So you get your down back, plus you get a little bit of equity from the refinance.
Yeah.
And that gives you what you need to then go out and do it again. So that's the repeat part, right?
Yes.
Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I just want people to understand what we're talking about, because, when you know what I mean, right?
Yes.
You and I can do the jargon thing all day long, but
yes.
I just want to make sure that people that haven't ever done this before, because there are going to be people that are going to listen to this podcast and they're going to be inspired to read, Rich Dad Poor Dad, to read Cash Flow Quadrant, right? And they're going to be inspired to want to be just like you. I want to be just like you when I grow up, right? Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
And so we learn how to do that. We do our first property. And
so you did that with the duplex?
No, we didn't do it with the duplex. The duplex, we just bought it straight up 25% down. And so we found another property that was in Fort Worth, another hour and a half drive from our home, because to me, that's where the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
We buy this property for $65,000. I found it on the MLS. I called literally the agent. I think I was using Zillow or Redfin, and I just called that agent. And I was like, hey, do you do investments? And they're like, sure. I probably should have did more research on that, but I didn't. Because it all comes back. It all comes back around.
Just for the people that are taking notes, do more research than that.
Do more research.
Right.
Ask more questions and go with your gut. Then she finds us that we find this property. We write an offer for $65,000. Again, I go to my conventional loan and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to do this BRRRR process. They're like, sure, you can do it. No, you can't do it with a conventional loan.
Right.
But anyways, hey, my realtor didn't know, neither did I. We're just going based on what we learned.
Live and learn.
And we go through this process, and towards the very end, when the appraiser goes out, they're like, this house is not livable. Like, we cannot loan money on this house. You're going to have to fix this house first, and then we can come back and loan money. So my realtor goes, okay, I have an idea. We're going to go back to the sellers and ask the seller if we can prolong the closing for 60, 90 days so you can rehab it. I'm like, well, she said to do it. She's an expert. Let's do it. I rehabbed the house that I did not own.
Oh my gosh.
Don't ever,
Don't
ever,
ever do that.
ever
Oh
do
my
that.
goodness.
I put my own money. I didn't have a hard money lender.
Yeah,
I had no extra loans.
right.
We put in our own cash of $40,000 to rehab this house.
Yeah, don't ever do that. Yeah.
Don't have hindsight looking at it. Why? Why?
Yeah.
But again, hey, then we come back, we go back and get the loan. Thank God, because anything could have happened where they're like, oh, the seller's like, we're just gonna keep the house.
Exactly.
Thanks for
Yeah.
everything you did. Like,
Thanks so
and you would
much.
get that money back.
Right.
So we were able to close on the house. They closed on it. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do a cash out refinance. They're like, oh no, you got to wait 6 months.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Again, I go
Right.
back to the realtor and she's like, don't worry. It's going to appraise for like 130,000 in 6 months. I literally had a countdown on my desk because at that time I was still working. When those 6 months are up, I'm going to do this cash out refinance. So we have a tenant in place during these 6 months. So we're making a decent amount of money. But I'm like, in order to finish this, I got to do this cash out refinance.
Yeah.
So I'm still in communication with this agent because she's still showing us new properties.
Right.
We get the house appraised. It appraised for 103,000. I'm like, what happened to the 130 that you
Right.
promised me that I was going to make?
Right. We needed this.
Another tip, go with your gut. Go and pull the comps yourself.
Yeah.
Look at the data. Don't let anyone tell you what it's going to be.
And be conservative.
Be conservative.
Because that appraiser, right? So you can give, and you know this, and this is for people that don't know.
Yes.
An appraisal is an opinion of value.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You can give 10 different appraisers the same property and you're going to get 10 different values because they bring their frame of reference from their past.
Yes.
And what they value and don't value. They bring that to the appraisal.
They do. They do.
And I'm not saying that they're inaccurate, and I'm not saying appraisers aren't amazing and all that, because they are, but you need to understand what you're dealing with. You need to understand you need to understand what am I trying to say? You need to understand the field. You need to understand, what you're dealing with here.
Yes.
So,
it's very subjective. So it's one of those, you just have to read between the lines of the numbers of what you're looking for, the comps. And so I'm calling the agent. I'm like, hey, it appraised. You said it was going to appraise at 130. Where are you? Complete crickets. I never heard from her again.
yeah.
So in that moment, while I'm like, what is going on? I have lost so much money, my husband, and he believed in me. And now like I got to come back to tell him this is not working.
And that's a hard conversation.
That's a very hard conversation that we didn't have a lot of money to start with. Like we spent 3 years saving this money.
Right.
And to now say because of that appraiser, all that money is stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to my husband. He's like, that's okay. We don't need the money today. We're cash flowing. Let's just deal with it. And then in a couple more years, we will definitely get the equity. That's another tip of having a spouse that he may not be fully understanding what's going on, but he fully trusts you. And I have to my husband for that.
You had buy-in.
Yes.
That's the key. So the key to this is he was on board with what you were doing, just like what your mom did.
Yes.
Right? That's the smartest thing you did. The
Yes.
smartest thing you did was sit down with him and have him listen to the same podcast you're listening to, read Think and Grow Rich, all that. Okay. That's what couples don't do.
Yes.
And then one comes to the other one and the other one resents that one, right?
Yes.
That's how resentment gets built.
Absolutely.
And so, resentment gets built with children too. So that's why you have buy-in conversations with the kids and you have buy-in conversations with the spouse. And I would submit to you with the rest of your family, right? Because they're going to be helping with childcare and all this other stuff.
Right.
Everybody has to be on board. Everybody has to understand what it is that you're doing and they need to embrace it.
Yes, absolutely. And during that time, I was like, let's go. We're just going to figure it out and move on. And in that moment, I was like, I never really thought about being a realtor at that moment until then.
Yeah.
And I said, I know how to be nice to people and I know how to tell people the truth and I know how to be transparent and I know how to take care of people.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I'm going to become a realtor because then I'll get access to the MLS and I will figure it out. And during that time, I really was not happy with my job. At that time, I already had 2 children. I really wasn't home with them. My job became a very toxic, and just the different politics with education can definitely wear and tear on you.
Yeah.
And so my husband and I came up with the goal, we're going to save enough money that I can eventually walk away. During that time, I started serving more in my church and just saying, God, if this is what you want me to do, you got to open up these doors. Like, I'm trusting you relentlessly.
Right.
I remember having a post-it on my desk, and I'm like, I'm going to trust God even though I don't understand. So I continued to look at that every day on my desk until I decided in October of 2018, I'm going to walk away from education.
Yeah.
I was over it. My dad had just had a stroke at that time. And I remember him being in the hospital, and he's just like, go after your dreams. You don't want to be like me and I'm stuck. I can't do anything that I said I wanted to do now.
Yeah.
Go after it. Education will be there. They're going to love you now and they're going to love you later if you got to go back, but at least go after it.
Yeah.
And I think I needed that just that a permission to just say, go do it. And then my husband was already saying, go, go, go and go. And I did it in October 2018.
This is you trusting God, but this is also God working his magic, right?
Yes.
So I'm truly believing, we've talked about this on the podcast before, you probably heard this, but we go through the things we go through because God's preparing us.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if you look closely enough, you have to put the effort in, but if you look closely enough, you can find something positive about anything that happens that's negative, right?
Absolutely.
Instead of blaming God for your dad having a stroke, right?
Yeah.
He's literally preparing you for this is where you need to go.
Yes.
Right. And it's kind of that swift kick in the tuchus kind of thing, right?
Yes.
That's God's way of doing it. And to your credit, you saw it the right way. So did your dad.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't surprise me, by the way. You were raised by some world-class parents. Just saying.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely give them so much credit. And I'm like, everything I've been able to do is because they instilled that in me of like, hey, stuff happens, find another way. Let's figure this out. And so at that moment, I literally quit my job on a Friday. I told them I'm not coming back. Here's my resignation letter. You don't do that in education. You just don't. And I'm the principal. You don't do that.
Right.
And so they call me back like, Deborah, what are you going to do? Like, we need to know, what are we going to tell the staff? I've never walked away from anything. And I said, just read my resignation letter. I'm completely done. God is calling me for something else. I don't know what I'm going to do on this other end. And I'm just going to step in and do it. The week later, I took my real estate license test. I passed it. And in that first year, 2018, I sold over 40 houses and didn't even know what the heck I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you did.
And it was great. And then during those 40 houses that I was selling and helping people, inspiring people to be homeowners and saying, this is how you change the trajectory in your life. This is how you gain wealth. I was buying my own properties. We bought 10 properties that one year that we turned into rental properties and just went through the burr over and over. I didn't even know any contractors, but I was like resourceful. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to be at Home Depot at 6 a.m. and I'm going to talk to everybody. And any good feeling I got from some person, I'm going to go with it. Now that hurt me a little bit, but I've learned a lot through that entire process.
You got to go through the process.
You got to go through.
You're going to stumble. You're going to stub your toe. You're going to trip, right? All those things are going to happen, right?
Yes. Yeah.
You got to get through the process, because until you get a contractor and you get the contractor out there, you know this, until you see their work and see how they treat you and see how they treat everybody else and see the end product, right? You don't know. Now you have people, because you're now on the other end of this, now you have people that you wouldn't give up for all the money in the world.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
And so I hope, if you haven't already, I hope you start a construction business.
I'm working on that. I'm in the works with that right now.
That's the next step for you, because I read everything, right? Just being your coach for a second, right? I read everything about you. You absolutely need to take your favorite contractor, go sit with them and start a business.
Absolutely.
That's your next step.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because the money you're spending is going out the door and not coming back.
Yes.
Now what you need to do is take that, right? Take that and use that to then generate income that comes back to you, because part of that profit needs to be back with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the beautiful thing that I did was the same moment my mom told me, "Hey, we're making a shift. We lost the contract. I'm going to do this." I did the same thing and I posted on social media throughout my entire transition of I was in education, I decided to go into real estate. I'm posting about doing rentals and I just wanted to do rentals. I was like, I'll just do rental properties, make a little extra money to cover some of the bills in our household, but my goal is to chase these properties. Like I
Right.
need to get into real estate and build my portfolio.
Right.
So we're doing that and then all of a sudden I'm getting calls from this person and calls from that person. And the first thing I did, I hired someone to help me with paperwork. I know how to love on people, but I don't really care about the paperwork. I just want
I
to
don't
make sure
either.
it's done.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
I'm
a
like,
paperwork person.
yeah, no. And I was like, I'll just hire somebody. I will pay you exceptionally well, but I don't want to touch a paperwork and it better be
Right.
done correctly.
Take it. Yeah.
And that was the best step I did because I was
Yeah.
able to do 42 houses without a team. And I was able to be at every closing, be at every inspection, and really grow and help people,
Yeah.
which in turn the next year doubled my business.
That's
And then I
awesome.
created a team. And I'm like, I
That's so
didn't even
cool.
want this to all be set up. And God just has a beautiful way of taking the things that you thought you lost and he restores it with more, with interest. And you're just like, I just want to help so many more people.
So you're working on a book.
Yes, I'm working on a book. I during that whole transition, I'm sharing people, helping as many people. And then I created a course called the Roadmap to Real Estate Investing. And
Beautiful.
of course, I teach people how to become investors. And
Oh,
not only do I give them the information, my team holds their hand through the entire process. We give
awesome.
them contractors, we give them lenders. So at the end of the day, we also list their properties for them and they make the maximum profit at the end.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
And so because I've been able to do that and been very successful with my course, I'm like, some people can't afford the course, but they still need this information. So I
Amen.
decided to create the book where I don't care how much money you have. You have $13 to buy this book.
Mhm.
So I'm in the very early stages of editing the book because knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Just the same knowledge of going to college, going to school, you need this knowledge to get into real estate.
Well, and the best part about this is people that read this book are learning from your mistakes.
Yes.
Right? That's worth way
Yes.
more than $13. Let's be
Way
honest.
more. Yes.
Okay. Okay. So
Yes.
what's the name of the book?
The Roadmap to Real Estate Investing.
And when's it going to be finished?
It should be finished probably the next quarter. So I'm thinking
Okay.
about June or July, that book should be ready to be published and released.
Okay. So when it's ready, we're going to have you come back on.
Awesome.
Okay.
I would love that.
And we'll talk about the book. We'll go through each chapter. We'll talk about everything that you're doing, right? And we'll promote the book, but we can also talk about the lessons that you've learned and the
Yeah.
different things that are in the book that you go through.
Absolutely. Yes, I cannot wait. Thank you so
Man,
much.
that's so cool. I'm so excited for you. And I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I really am. I mean, I hope you go and hug and kiss your parents. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Because really this all started with them,
Mhm.
right? It started with the way you were raised.
Yes.
And you getting, and them and your mother, oh my goodness, your mother, right? What a saint, comes to you and sits down with you guys and says, hey, here's what's going on. We got to pivot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That taught you more about entrepreneurship than anything that you've done.
And
I'm not joking, because if you look at your life, we now have your life story on tape. Every single time that you came up with something like what your parents dealt with,
yes.
you pivoted.
Absolutely.
You are living the life you're living right now because of the lessons you learned from your mom and from your dad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's unbelievable to see. And I tell them, I don't think words can even express. I appreciate everything that you guys did. I appreciate everything you kind of taught us and you guided us, even with things that you didn't even know, but
Yeah.
you still showed us the way. And one thing they showed us is that I don't care if a storm is coming, you're going to go through it and you're going to be stronger on the other side.
Yeah.
So a lot of people deal with storms and they go through anxiety and they go through depression. We just say it's just part of doing business. It's a
Yeah.
part of just the life we're living.
Yeah.
And just change the perspective of how you deal with whatever storms you're facing.
I love it. I'm so proud of you. And I'm so unbelievably honored that we got to spend this time together. Thank you so much. It was so great to meet you. I can't wait to have you back. Now, do me a favor. I need a link so people can reach you, because I guarantee you there are going to be people on this that listen to this podcast that are going to want to reach you. Will you send me a link to your website?
Absolutely. I will send it to you.
And then what we'll do, just email it to me. And then what we'll do is we'll put it in your description so people can reach out to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me. This is such an honor. Thank you. Thank you.
That was a fast hour.
That went by so quick. Wow.
You're amazing. Thanks again.
Thank you. You have a good rest of your day.
You too. I appreciate you. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.